Recently, the Goethe Institute, together with other partners, organized a workshop to introduce the e-book Creativity and Urban Development in Vietnam, compiled by Dr. Michael Waibel and colleagues. The e-book introduced the creative spaces established in Vietnam in recent years. At the seminar, Michael Waibel discussed with representatives of the creative spaces and commented on the potentials of the creative spaces in urban development process in terms of culture and economics. Creative space is a combination of cultural and art services. This would be a co-working space or venue for cultural and art performances. Currently, in Vietnam, some creative spaces have been formed to meet the needs of youngsters, namely Hanoi Creative City and X98 in Hanoi, Area 21 in Hải Phòng Province, and 3A Station in Ho Chi Minh City. These creative spaces have a very meaningful definition, contributing to the model culture of Vietnam.
Sự phát triển các không gian sáng tạo Việt Nam nó đang ở cái giai đoạn đầu, theo tôi đánh giá là như vậy. Bởi vì có những nơi mà ở trên thế giới, ví dụ như các nước châu Âu chẳng hạn, thì các không gian sáng tạo đã có được từ cách đây vài chục năm. Họ đã có thời gian để trải nghiệm. Còn ở Việt Nam thì mới, nhưng mà tôi cũng thấy là cũng có cái tác động rất là tích cực với xã hội. Chẳng hạn như về kinh tế chẳng hạn thì tôi thấy là các không gian mở ra, có nghĩa là có thêm việc làm. Chẳng hạn như trước kia khu Zone 9 mặc dù là tồn tại trong thời gian cũng không phải là dài, nhưng mà cũng đã có tạo ra được hơn 1.000 việc làm cho các bạn trẻ.
In today's program, we will talk to Dr. Michael Waibel, a German man who has many years of research on urban development and creative spaces in Vietnam. Also, we will explore Hanoi Creative City, one of the emerging creative spaces in Hanoi.
Hello and welcome to Sharing Vietnam on VTC10 Netviet. I'm Ông Nhat. Recently, there are some creative spaces in Vietnam, especially in the big cities like Hanoi or Ho Chi Minh City, that has gained a lot of attention from the community, especially the youngsters. So to find out more about the creative spaces in Vietnam as well as their role in contributing to the development of Vietnam's urban areas, we have a talk to Mr. Michael Waibel, doctor from Hamburg University, as well as the editor of the ebook introducing about the creative spaces in Vietnam and around the world. Thank you, Mr. Michael Waibel, for joining our program today. As an experienced expert studying the urban development in Vietnam for quite a few years, what do you think about the development of the creative spaces in Hanoi in particular and in Vietnam in general?
I would say that in general the development of creative spaces is just at the beginning. Creative spaces, in my understanding, are an important part of urban redevelopment, urban regeneration, not only of galleries but also with restaurants and leisure spaces, public spaces. In Hanoi, this development is more advanced than in the rest of Vietnam, because Hanoi, as we all know, has a long tradition of culture and arts. And I would also say that this is one of the key strengths of Hanoi. So I would say the development of creative spaces is a big chance on the way of the economic upgrading and economic restructuring of Vietnam.
Among the popular creative spaces in Vietnam, what is the most impressive one to you?
We have to say that the most impressive creative space is a space which is not existing anymore. It's this famous Zone 9.
Yeah.
This was a very large space offering also jobs for many hundreds of people, with a good mixture of different business and with a very attractive public space. And I would hope that we will find a new space like that, maybe in a more secure, safe physical environment, to offer an interesting place for Hanoians and for international tourists.
As compared to the creative spaces in Germany and other Asian countries, what are the differences of the creative spaces in Vietnam that you may see?
At this creative space development cycle, Vietnam is really just at the beginning. Germany is very much advanced related to that. And in China, we are already in the middle or end of this kind of cycle. In China, like 10 or 15 years ago, we have had the same situation like in Vietnam now. Around 10 years ago, the local governments in China and also the national government acknowledge the huge economic and cultural potential such spaces can have. For example, the biggest creative zone in China, in Beijing 798, they attract over 3 million tourists every year, and it has become a very big part of urban branding. And I think Vietnam should follow this example, and they should promote culture and arts more offensively than maybe until now. We have so many spaces also in city center areas which now are open for new uses. And until now, these old factory sites usually get demolished and we make some new apartment or high-rise building. But I would say some of those spaces should be renovated, refurbished, and converted into vibrant, creative neighborhoods with a mixture of small and medium-sized enterprises from the cultural and creative sector.
One of the new emerging creative spaces in Hanoi is Hanoi Creative City. This is a complex area of nearly 10,000 square meters. Although the location is not in downtown, this complex has compelling artistic features to young people with impressive decoration and design. It can be used to organize street sport events or outdoor musical concerts. The red iron staircase of the building is also regarded as one of the highlights of the entire creative complex. Hanoi Creative City stretches throughout 20 floors, of which the facilities from the 1st to the 10th floor are shopping malls, restaurants, coffee shops, and entertainment zones.
Hôm nay là lần đầu tiên em có cơ hội được đến cái khu vui chơi này và thực sự thì em thấy rất là ấn tượng. Thứ nhất là cái khu này nó rộng hơn em nghĩ và cái sự thiết kế trong những cái khu này thì rất là phù hợp với giới trẻ. Ở Hà Nội hiện nay thì có rất ít những cái khu vui chơi như thế này và em thực sự muốn là cái khu này nó mở rộng thêm một chút nữa. Ví dụ như là nó sẽ là một cái khu tổ hợp bao gồm như là thêm những hàng quần áo hoặc là tổ chức thêm những cái sự kiện hội chợ vui chơi dành cho giới trẻ thêm nữa.
Khi mà có một khu vui chơi mới thì tất nhiên sẽ là một cái niềm vui mới và một cái nơi mới để các bạn trẻ có thể thỏa thích những cái sở thích của mình cũng như là để khám phá và tìm hiểu thêm những cái mới về giới trẻ, được giao tiếp cũng như là tham gia nhiều cái hoạt động bổ ích hơn.
As a creative art complex, Hanoi Creative City also has a very indispensable space for recreational activities, aiming to create a place for all those who do creative and artistic work to meet up to exchange ideas. Business owners here highlight the artistic values and the creative activities rather than the commercial purposes.
Việt Nam với một cái đất nước và có một cái quốc gia có dân số gần 100 triệu người và cái lực lượng trẻ rất là nhiều, và cái tài nguyên lớn nhất của chúng ta đấy là con người. Nếu chúng ta đã quan tâm đến cái nguồn tài nguyên là con người thì chúng ta phải có những cái chính sách để cho cái ngành công nghiệp sáng tạo nó phát triển, và để cho những cái hoạt động để thúc đẩy cho cái ngành công nghiệp sáng tạo phát triển thì một trong những hoạt động đấy là hình thành những cái không gian sáng tạo trong thành phố.
It can be said that creative spaces play an important role in urban planning while contributing to the creation of the image of an open and modern city in the context of today's global integration. Besides the purpose of bringing the social values and connecting people, creative spaces in Vietnam is a part of economic development and brings Vietnam's model culture closer to the world.
tinh thần sáng tạo này rất là quan trọng trong phát triển xã hội. Đặc biệt là khi Việt Nam đã qua cái thời kỳ kinh tế mà được gọi là hỗ trợ từ phía bên ngoài, Việt Nam cần phải vươn lên hơn nữa, và cái sáng tạo là cái cách duy nhất để mà bước tiếp tục.
After finishing the ebook introducing Vietnam's creative spaces, what is your evaluation on the arrangement and the development cycle of Vietnam's creative spaces in recent years?
We have organized that conference 1 year ago and invited experts from Germany, from UK, from the Philippines, from Malaysia to present about their own creative spaces and to provide knowledge from their home region to the policy makers. They have been at the beginning of this development cycle as well, just a few years ago. I think it's important not to start from zero, but to take this experience from other countries and to build up a regulatory incentive framework in Vietnam as well, based on the experience of other countries.
In your opinion, what are the roles of creative spaces in Vietnam in daily life and the economic development in the urban areas?
I see a great potential that creative spaces can contribute to urban redevelopment, urban regeneration, to new vibrant neighborhoods, to preserve industrial heritage, and at the same time it can support the economic restructuring towards more knowledge-based and service-based industries. We all want that Vietnam is developing from a global workbench, just producing textiles or electronics, to a more advanced industrial economy.
One of the most popular creative spaces in Vietnam is Zone 9, which is no longer exist. That may raise a lot of problems regarding to the safety and security. So in your opinion, what are the main criteria for a typical creative spaces in Vietnam that will ensure the cultural and artistic future but still maintain the safety and security for people?
I would agree that safety and security are important issues, and you have to pay closer regard to that in the future. I think an important precondition to develop an attractive space is to have an attractive site with interesting industrial heritage. It should be a place who has potential to develop into something beautiful after refurbishment, after renovation. We need to find some new governance mode in terms of creative reuse and urban regeneration. You have to also follow other models of economic restructuring, but I think it's an important way which has also the chance to combine economic restructuring with urban redevelopment. And I think this is interesting, this mixture between economic restructuring and urban redevelopment, urban regeneration.
Last but not least, what do you think about the potential of the creative spaces in Vietnam in the future?
I would say that it has a great potential because it's just at the beginning, but we need more support from the policy side. I'm very optimistic, particularly in the case of Hanoi, because the strength of Hanoi has always been culture and arts. So I think that Hanoi should build on its strengths, on its traditional strengths, to develop and adapt it in a more modern way in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Michael Waibel, for joining our program today. And that is also the end of our program Sharing Vietnam. For comments and feedbacks, please send it to sharingvietnam@netviet.net. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again tomorrow.